If the millennials don't want their music world to die, they got to understand the history. They got to understand what these early days of creating the movement was for music to be outdoors, and really take stock of it, make the technology even better, and put their mark on it for sure. But get everybody off the couch.
Don, what I enjoy about these interviews is that we try to give to this next generation stories and passion and energy and all the different effort that people go through in their lives to create events, whether it's involved in the music industry, whatever their dreams are that they might want to get involved with. You come across as an amazing event organizer that takes a skill that is probably at such a high level that maybe you take it for granted because you've been doing it for many, many years, but at the point of what you've done in the sports industry and in the music industry, you really have created some events that are internationally, astronomically huge at what you're doing. So for that, I thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dom. Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Where did this start for you by getting involved with events? How does it all begin for you?
That's a good question, and I would like to start by saying, I understand you guys have been making this session series an amazing thing with maybe hundreds of real artists, but now you're getting to the guys that no one's supposed to know. I'm not the guy you're supposed to know, but without guys like me, there are no concerts.
Absolutely.
There's no event.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been the guy since basically 1984 who's developed venues. And there wasn't a real venue science back in the 60s or 70s, right? I mean, the boys at Woodstock had an idea. They got some scaffolding and plywood together, some wire and speakers, and we have Woodstock, okay? But how does MetLife Stadium get built for 75, 80,000 people and the Rolling Stones? How does an event like the Stones in Rio with 2 million people on the beach happen?
Absolutely, on the beach,
But then how does a Springsteen on Broadway get done, right? So you have the little great events, you have the massive concert events, you have the music festivals that are enormous and take modular technology because a week later nothing's there. I hope it's cleaned up. So I'm that guy. I'm one of those guys anyway.
And who started that concept of that modular technology where you can build this and then dismantle it?
Golf.
Really?
You think about it.
Really?
You think about it. In reality, Woodstock gets all the credit for '69, right? And then this farm turns into an amazing thing that they didn't even finish building because they ran out of time in the mud and the rain, right? But technically, the Olympic Games and golf are the events where it's a weekend. But you can have 60,000 people for a weekend, and they want their hospitality tent. The media wants to be covered. All the technology has to be there. The broadcasters are there. There's grandstands. The athletes have to be in something special. Parking. Everything has to be done. You take this ritzy country club. They're scared to death. Everybody's going to ruin it. They probably do. It's done. Okay? And so when you do these festivals around the world, that's the same kind of bit. I was a professional athlete, then I was a professional coach, and in the 1980s I started building and designing sports stadiums, and my big calling was that in 1989, 1990, the Soccer Football World Cup came to the United States for 94.
Correct.
I was the 12th hire, and I was supposed to get all the stadiums ready. And my first really big concert was that after the World Cup semifinal in New York, we had 4 days to get the World Cup out and Pink Floyd in. And that's where I got into the music business, 1984.
How did you mastermind that to make that happen? What did that take?
Well, when I got told by the stadium that I had 4 days to get the World Cup out, and what does that mean? Well, what that means is we had built a temporary grass field on top of the AstroTurf. We had the media in the grandstand seats. We had to take the media out and get the seats back. We had the AstroTurf back, and then at the same time, Pink Floyd's 3-day stage build was coming in. So, I mean, that's just how it got started. And I found that I had a talent for understanding what the stakeholders needed, what everybody needed. From a stadium who has everything worked out very solidly with legal and contracts, to a band and a manager who, is expecting to have not 72,000 seats, but 72,856 seats, because that's what he sold. And so we can't have sports stuff left over. So that's how it started,
So
84.
where do you think that skill came, or that ability, or that discipline, or that understanding of how'd you put this together?
Well, that's a good question. I would just say that I grew up with a very type A father, but who was a father in music and a father in sport, both.
Interesting.
My father was the Canadian record holder in the mile, but could play the vibes as well as anybody, you know, and played the vibes in jazz bands all around, and
Really?
can hear a song and play all 10 fingers on the piano, and skipped me, but it went right to my son, and my son's a rock and roller these
Is
days
he really?
in LA. So
He plays what instrument?
he plays piano and guitar.
How great is
That's
that?
right. He's a singer-songwriter, and he's done really well with it.
And living in LA.
Living in LA, and wrote
Great
a
place to
song
be.
that made it to #1.
How fantastic.
And took that money and started a kombucha company with it. So he's got a day job. He's got a day job.
What a smart kid. What a smart kid.
Boy.
So yeah, so you get this influence from your this type A personality from your dad, which
That's
is
right.
incredible. So you found the balance of the discipline that it takes for some massive organizational skills.
That's right. I think it was that. And, you know, maybe the type A personality isn't on the artist side. It probably is the expectation that it's not, right?
Okay, yeah.
But on the side that produces and get things right and make sure everything's built and the sound works. I mean, you look in a room like this, these incredible studios, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be talented. You have to be disciplined. You have to know exactly what the timing is right, things of that nature. So I would say that on the music side, you know, the talent is the front of house, but I'm back of house. I'm the guy nobody's supposed to know. But you know what? You walk in onto a beach and there's a stage that can take 25,000 people like we did for the Miami Beach
The Centennial, which is
That's-
incredible.
It was an amazing event. You know, that's a story where the mayor of Miami Beach, Philip Levine, contacted me and Bruce Oros of ACT Productions here in Miami and asked us to be the co-producers of the Centennial. And he said, you know what I want? I want Woodstock on the beach. Well, Woodstock on the beach, but only one night, and on the sand. So we actually built a massive stage. We created a VIP area, and we had 25,000 seats on the beach, and you know, some big acts. Andrea Bocelli with full orchestra, full choir,
Yeah.
followed by Barry Gibb, Gloria Stefan, Wycliffe Jean, John Cicada. And I think we finished at 2:30 in the morning with Flo Rida. The police wanted us to stop at 1. And you know what? I had a text from the mayor who said, I got to go, but I hope you play all night.
Oh, is that
I
great?
showed it to the chief of police. We played till 2:30. It was great.
So what is it like? I mean, do you have, is there a set crew that you use? Are there certain people that you depend on that you have within your circle of influence that you have?
I think so. I think you know, I'm 62 now, so at this point, I'm not. It's not that I don't want to try somebody new, but I think over the years, you've got your usual suspects that you trust.
Yeah.
They work well together. Everybody knows their place. Everybody's got good ideas, and some of them stick. You know, and so from architects and engineers that I use all over the world to general contractors to suppliers. You know, again, the music world may not know that stage suppliers, tent guys, lighting guys, speaker guys, the people that you contact that you want for security, for ticket taking, and the food service guys. You know, I mean, who's bringing in the toilets, Dom? Who's bringing in the toilets? You know, I mean, maybe the artist never thinks about that.
Absolutely.
But I've read a lot of writers, and on the back somewhere, and you know, there's a lot of cool things they want in those things. I'm the guy that's got to make sure those happen.
That is
you know?
amazing. But the construction of the actual facility, I mean, I saw photos of it. You know, Carlos Guzman had shown me some pictures of what had to be built.
Yeah.
And the machines that had to come in to build the
On the
stuff. And
sand.
the cranes on the sand.
That's right.
What engineers do you use to be able to map this out?
Good ones.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
You know, but there are plenty of what we would call special event or mega event companies that specialize. And when you ask me who started it, golf really did start it, because you got these country clubs where everything's just perfect, and the membership are a little sketchy about whether they want all these, you know, folks on their property.
Yeah.
We have to go in there and we have to make sure we left it better than we found it, which is not easy. So golf was the premier sport. That led to all these Olympic Games. You go to an Olympic Games now, and the days of building 32 sports for 32 permanent venues are over. So beach volleyball or equestrian or all these other events, much of it are in temporary venues. You build them, you get rid of them. World Cups are now going that way too. So the sporting world just gave access. But sporting facilities are very expensive to do, so you want to have other events. So you're now developing stadiums where you know You want to design it. I have two great stories of stadiums that didn't design it well. You know, if you go back to the Baltimore Orioles and Camden Yards, they said baseball only. We never want anything but baseball.
Yeah.
So there was no tunnel to drive trucks into the field or anything of that nature. Do you know what their very first event was?
What?
The Pope. Okay, the Pope. He decided to come to Baltimore. They had no idea, so they hired guys like me to help figure out how to crane in the Pope's stage and find a way to have him drive onto the field, and then all things like that.
Where do they come in with budgets for this year? How do you have to sit down to map out a budget that
you start like that, right?
Really?
You know, you start by saying, well, what's the event? You know, I mean, when we first told Philip Levine in Miami Beach that Woodstock on the Beach was going to cost $15 to $20 million, we were probably pretty close. You know, in the end, he let us spend $7 or $8 million. It was still a big cost.
Absolutely.
You know, now what that's done is it's led the city of Miami Beach to say, you know, hey, we only had like one arrest during that whole event. Maybe this is something we should do more and more.
Interesting.
So I think it's leading cities and villages who want to try more of these type of events.
Boy, what you're doing by having this skill is, especially in the music industry, you're offering work to great artists to have venues that might not have the venue there, that we can bring them in and hear, you know, Andrea Bocelli. I mean, there's these phenomenal artists that can have their full orchestra there. This is incredible.
Full orchestra. He's only sang 9 songs because it was part of a festival.
Yeah.
But you know what? He wanted his 100-piece orchestra. Yeah. He wanted his 100-piece. We didn't say no. We made it happen. And we had 5 to 7 minutes to get that orchestra out and the choir out, because I think John Cicada was next.
John was next, yeah,
yeah. So as we went through the show, and we just had to think out. But there's a lot of people in the event world and the music world that do those things every night in some club or something, right? But the fact of the matter is, I end up being a guy that gets brought in a lot of times for the big stadiums. And now I'm brought in by architects when an NFL team is designing a big stadium. I'm a guy that gets brought in to say, okay, football we know.
Yeah.
But what happens when we have a boxing match or a car show or Springsteen or the Stones or U2?
Yeah.
Well, that's something that they have to fit. The architects have to now fit those kind of things into an NFL type stadium.
Interesting. So what happens when they do like the Super Bowl and they have this incredible music event? I mean, it's just literally in a commercial break.
Well, you know, we're here in Miami, and it's going to be the 11th Super Bowl, which will set the record. Miami will now have its 11th Super Bowl.
Interesting.
So, you know, what happens is an NFL normal game, I think the halftime show is 12 or 14 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's 22 or 24 minutes in a Super Bowl. And what we get to do is we roll out a stage, we roll out the speaker system, because the last thing you want is a great band on the house system, right?
Right.
So you got to come out with sound. Right. You got to come out with a stage. I think this year it's Shakira and J-Lo, right? So I mean, what a show it's going to be.
It'll
Remember,
be out of control,
3 years ago, Lady Gaga came out of the sky, you know. So it's amazing things, but you have 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Get the stage on, the sound on, put it together, make it happen, let the artist sing 3 songs, and get the stage back off, because the team has to come back and warm up again, and then the show goes. So,
have there ever been any snags that has gone on that has been just, you know, unexpected?
Sure, there's the wardrobe malfunction of Janet Jackson, right?
Justin Timberlake and
those
Janet
kind of
Jackson.
things. You know, the fact of the matter is, here's the secret: they're lip syncing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're singing.
Yeah.
But there's a tape. You can't
get that quality of sound.
You can't get and there's just too much can go wrong in front of 180 to 300 million people are watching. You know, for that 12 minutes, they say up to 300 million people are watching.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. It really is.
So, with challenges that happen with stages coming out, have there ever been any stages that did not function well enough? Or?
Well, I don't want to say that I was part of one that for the Orange Bowl, I might have been part of one where we pushed the stage out, but there'd been a last-second penalty, and the teams were going to actually kick a field goal at the other end of the stage, and we're pushing the stage out, and our team didn't quite realize that, hey, you know, you could block the kick and run it back and score.
Oh.
See, we can't just be sitting on a stage and watching it, right? I might have been part of that, Dom. I can't really remember, but I'm asking for a friend. You know? Asking for a friend. I might have been part of that.
Where does a young person go to learn this?
Boy, that's the school of hard knocks, isn't it? You know, it's luck. But I think the key thing is that there are event companies now that you can, get that degree in. And I think it used to just be sports management. Now it's event management.
Yeah.
Even here in Miami, I believe it's an event management degree that you can get at like a University of Miami or FIU. So, if you want to try the school side, definitely event management, sports management is a good way to get into the business academically. But I think the real fact of the matter is every good city or big town has, promoters and producers, and the way to get started in is to knock on the door and find your way into an event, a concert, an amphitheater, a theater, and just start at the bottom.
Do you have, the next generation or younger people that you see hopeful and
there's some impressive people out
really?
there. They're way, I keep telling them to keep doing a good job because I want to retire someday. And I think the key thing is that the technology is getting so good. I mean, we don't take tickets anymore. You show your phone, and you're getting in with a phone or maybe a band or something like that. And the technology that people could do for events. Think about it. Again, I'm the guy that's going to build a venue, but I need good technology. Where's that coming from? Every day you hear about a new idea, a new piece of technology that is good for the event world.
Yeah.
So I think that the music world is only going to get more interesting, more exciting. I just saw a presentation about what the Madison Square Garden guys are doing with these new spheres. Have you heard about the sphere?
I have not. What are the spheres?
Oh my God, it looks like, we're Long Island boys, New York boys, right? So it's the old World's Fair globe,
right?
Except that it is a theater, and it holds, 3,000 to 5,000 people. They're building the first one in Vegas and in London, and the whole sphere on the inside will be a screen. So the idea that it makes an IMAX look like an iPad.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the whole thing, and you're going to be sitting in there, and your seats are going to rock and roll and move, and the whole lighting system and a sound system. And they're going to say that you could do 8 events a day because you could have one TED Talk for 2 or 3 hours, but that night it's a movie or a concert later because it's so designed to be so totally self-sufficient. Nobody will need to bring stuff. You just show up, it's plug and play. Well, when we start seeing that kind of technology meets event, meets artists, meets talent, that's the theater of the future. So check out the Sphere.
What do you think the next 10 to 15 years are going to be? I mean, this is one aspect of it. How far do you think this can be pushed?
Well, it scares me, actually. Because, if you go to sports and you say to yourself, the 80,000 seat stadium isn't filling out like it used to. MetLife Stadium in New York is a really good example. Giant Stadium was a great stadium. The Jets and the Giants play there. Every game sold out the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Build a brand new stadium. I don't think they've had a game sell out in the new stadium. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
But what did they learn? They learned that, boys my age who love sports, we grew up with it. We'll buy the ticket. We'll go. Men my age.
Yeah.
My son's 32. He loves sports. Does he go to games? Only if somebody invites him.
Interesting.
He's not out there buying tickets.
Interesting, yeah.
So what's my grandson going to do?
Yeah.
I think the idea of the 80,000 seat stadium is a dinosaur. I think that, maybe Billy Joel will play Madison Square Garden. It'll be sold out until he can't play a note.
Until he stops. Yeah.
Probably, right? But that's a 20,000 seater in New York.
Yeah.
I think the key thing is that we have to keep coming up with ways that get people off their couch, off their phone, off their iPad, and active. But music's that kind of thing that you can enjoy beautifully at home. You have that earphone system and your stereo system. And
the 75-inch TV.
Exactly right. Yeah. So, the thing is, either we're going to be a very, very stoic society that just likes to listen but not go.
Right.
Well, we've got to find ways to make our venues like the Sphere, something that you want to get off your couch.
Yeah.
If you think about going to these, even our beach concert, or any. You really want to go stand for 5 hours, 7 hours, or if you sit down, where are you sitting? They're usually not comfortable seats. You got to park a long way away. You got to walk. You get frisked to make sure you're not carrying anything wrong in with you.
Absolutely.
It's not the easiest thing to do to go to an event. So we got to continue to find ways to make people love going. The artists have to help us with that. They've got to come up with some other crazy technologies that are wonderful too. I mean, I went to a Michael Bublé arena event not long ago. I loved what he did with his orchestra. I loved what he did with the video walls that he brought in. That kept me interested. You're not going to see that at home.
Right, right.
So I think the artists and their producers have to be continuing to change the envelope too.
So should there be this group meeting of artists and event planners and producers to sit down and say, you know, how are we going to map out this next decade?
Start that.
I think that's my.
You got my number.
I think that might be the next thing. We might need to call upon you and bring everybody in on video conferencing and just start to brainstorm to see exactly.
I think that's necessary because, you know, stadiums are not inexpensive because they have to pay these athletes, so that they're going to charge a lot for artists to play there. Theaters are the same way. But, you know, the real thing is the culture shock. And the culture shock is people are happier to do things by themselves, at home, in their car, with their friends, and not necessarily go to the venue. So we've got to keep coming with ideas like a concert on the beach or up in the mountains or somehow on an island somewhere. I mean, you know, that didn't go so well in the Bahamas. But, you know, there's some things that we have to keep doing to keep people loving our sport and loving our music and being part of it. That was the whole thing. The Woodstock generation, we can't let it go to the couch potato generation. Right?
Well, just a few years ago in Miami here, when you did the Centennial, you brought out, you know, thousands of people to come out and really enjoy the event and attend and be there.
And we tried to make it the kind of thing that, you know, all ages would like some part of our music. You know, from 8 o'clock till 2:30 in the morning, it was stars. But really from 1 in the afternoon to 7 at night, we had 30 acts that were mostly local bands and people who just wanted to come and play and asked to play, and we signed up good talent, and it was a great day.
We have these young people that are watching these interviews and that really kind of are inspired by these stories of all different aspects of the industry, whether they're musicians and producers and engineers and people like yourself putting on events. What would you say in closing to this next generation where they are listening and they're saying, well, that might be something I'm really interested in doing? What advice would you give them for them to guide their path in maybe something like an event organizer?
Well, listen, I think the fact of the matter is we are part of this Woodstock generation. Maybe we invented it. I mean, whoever brought the Beatles to Shea Stadium or Yankee Stadium or those early stadiums, they probably got it going. But, you know, the concerts in Hyde Park every year, London's still doing it. Hasn't been a concert in Central Park in a long time. Right? And I just think we need to work with our city fathers and officials not to be afraid of allowing the culture, this music festival world, to come back out, and the kids really need to enjoy it. I know there's plenty of great concert events and people, I'm sure, are still going, but I believe that the problem with music is that it's just so accessible that if the generation doesn't want it to die, if the millennials don't want their music world to die, they got to understand the history. They gotta understand what these early days of creating the movement was for music to be outdoors or in a stadium or in an arena or at an Olympic Games or at a Super Bowl, and really take stock of it, make the technology even better, and put their mark on it for sure. But get everybody off the couch.
Well, that sounds like they're going to have a task ahead of them in this next generation. But I'll tell you something. On stage where the artist happens, backstage where they're organizing things, you're building the stage. You're the one that's there.
I'm praying, Dom. I'm back there praying.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job, Don. It really is. Thank you so much for being a part of the session series. Keep going with it and keep in touch for sure, man. Dom Famularo here at the Sessions panel. This is so exciting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the subscribe button to be a part of what we're doing. The views help us tremendously. All of your comments, we read them and react to them. This is incredible. The support you're giving us is great. The Sessions panel. We'll see you real soon.